Hey Techno Studs, I've been really looking forward to recording this video because we're gonna be actually setting up our routing. As much as I love VLANs, I love layer 2 stuff, I love routing between VLANs, that's all cool, but now we get to actually interconnect our different connections with these WAN technologies. So we're gonna be setting up a couple more routers on our network. So what we'll do is we are going to use the Ethernet for our two sites that we're gonna have on each side. And then we're gonna connect between the routers using these T1 connections. So let's get these routers all prepped and ready to go. We need to do some configuration on the router, and then we'll prep these T1 lines to communicate across between these different routers. So let's get going and let's set this all up. So far on our network, we have this router right here, the laptop, 3 switches, and 3 PIs all set up with this configuration right here. We've configured this router for the most part, but what we need to do now is I have 2 other routers that we are going to configure on our network here, and then we will create this a point-to-point and HDLC on these connections here. And so I'm going to use these T1 connections for that. So let's get into configuring this network and setting up this network. For our network, the first connection we're going to create is between the router 1 and router 2. So I have both router 1 and router 2 up on my screen, and I'm consoled into both. So this is our R1 and this is R2. So the first thing I'm going to do is configure serial 010. I've got an IP address here. I've got IP version 6 address. We're going to, this first link, we're going to encapsulate with point-to-point protocol. And then I've got the no shutdown. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it into the router here. And just as a note as well, I've been updating as I go. I've been updating this IP list right here. So this is now all up to date. It's just a call out for how important documentation is, because now I can go back and reference that. Okay, so next what we're going to do is get onto router 2 and do the same thing. So in router 2, I'm configuring interface serial 010. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste this into here. Oh, I do need to... Where am I at? I need to get into the global configuration mode, so I'm not there yet. So conf T, get into there. Now I'll paste it. That goes into there. And if I've done everything right, what I should be able to do is ping the other one. So ping 10.240.2.2. So if I can ping 2.2, we are successful then. So that is configured correctly. All right. Next up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to configure R2 to communicate into R3. So I'm going to paste this into here. And notice that I haven't specified the encapsulation. So since I haven't specified the encapsulation, it's going to be HDLC. So I'm going to paste this into here. I made the same mistake. Get into the global configuration mode, paste that into there, and then I won't be able to ping the other side of this at this point in time. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch my console cables to connect now into R3 and the switch. We're gonna configure those and test everything out to make sure that it's working correctly. All right, I am now into router 3 on this router, so let's do the configuration with that. So this is going to be serial 000, so we will copy this first. I will get into the global configuration mode first, and then we will copy this, paste it into here, and if I've done everything right, we should be able to ping the other side of that now. So 10.240.3.1. So I'll hit enter on that. And not coming up. So we might have, oh, there we go. Just took it a second, but it is now communicating. In fact, do it one more, and it's successful. And then I'm going to connect FA 01, I'm actually going to connect into that network, into that switch. So I'm going to paste that into there, and we will do that. And then for switch 1, we do need to, or actually it should be mostly configured. I'm not going to be able to ping it actually yet because I don't have the Ethernet cable plugged into that switch. So let me plug the Ethernet cable from the router into the switch, and then we'll see if we can ping that. I'm going to jump into the switch here, and let's try to ping the default gateway. So see if we've got connectivity. So the default gateway is 10.2.0.1. Include a do on the front of that. And it is successful. So what I just did there is I pinged from this switch right here to the router, and it's the interface that the router is on that network. So everything was successful. So we know that we at least have some basic connectivity. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to ping this other interface on the other side of so it's in this network, but it's the other side of this router. And so let me go ahead and ping that. So that router, the other side of router 3 is 10.240.3.2. So let me see if I can ping that. Ping 10.240.3.2. And we will need to include that do statement at the front of this. In fact, let me just get out of here so I can ping just normally. All right, so I'm able to ping the interface on the other side. Now let me try to ping this router and this interface right here. So I'm going to do the same thing. It's the same exact network, but I'm going to ping the .1 instead of .2. So let me do .1, and we'll try that out. We'll give it a second because sometimes it takes a second. And it's not successful. So here's a question for you. Go ahead and pause the video to think about this, but what do you think is the reason why it can't ping that router? And if I pull up this diagram here again, what's happening is that this switch can get to the outside network. It knows how to do that because it's got a default gateway set. So it can ping out to this network right here, and it reaches this interface. This interface is on this router, and this router says, I know where that is. That's a directly connected network. So I'm going to send the ping back, or the reply back to the switch. But when we try to ping the other side, this router right here, it goes through the same process. It actually gets to this router, but this router is unaware of this network right here. If we were to take a look at router 2, we would not see this network exist on router 2. So where I'm going with this is that, and I could actually jump on router 2, and I would be able to ping the other sides of these networks, but I wouldn't be able to ping anything outside of that because it's not aware of any of these other networks. So here's an example where we need routing. We need to specify what networks are out there and how to get to those networks. And without that, we just don't have proper communication. So we know we've set everything up correctly because on the individual routers, we can actually ping where we would expect them to ping. The other side of the interface, it can actually get to that location. So we have connectivity between all of these. We just don't have connectivity on a global scale because it's unaware of those networks. So that is what we're going to be focusing on the remainder of this module, and the next module is now how do we get to these other networks.